What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up? What up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
What did you say, Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, Rebels? Welcome back to Rebel Radio. You're hearing us live from the Authentic Marketing Conference here in Los Angeles. Shout out to MediaLeaders.com. I was just speaking on a panel, and now I'm bringing you this Rebel Radio special edition. My guest today is my man, Mattie Safer. He was a member of the Rapture and part of their big indie electro hit before he broke out to do his own thing, and is now just come out with a beautiful classic soul record. Check out Mattie Safer online. I think you're gonna like that. He's got some really valuable lessons for us about the peaks and valleys of the music business and just a business overall. Kind of how he's able to roll with the ups and downs, and really importantly, knowing when it was time to move on. You know, I think that they were having a great time as a band, but you know, he'll tell us about how it wasn't really working for him anymore, and he came to the decision. And now what he's going through as far as the challenges of being a solo versus having been a part of a group. Challenges and advantages. And now let's hear what Mattie Safer has to say. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we just met at one of our events, and like, I don't know, you know, I just knew you were Dave's friend, and that's shout out to Synapse.
Yep.
That's usually good enough for me, but like, you know, you seem like a cool dude, and then you sent me some music that like blew my mind, and so I'm excited to get. Good?
Yeah.
So yeah, now I'm excited to get into what it's all about.
Yeah.
But I always like start kind of at the beginning, and just hear like how you got into this whole thing at all. So how did you first even get into music?
You know, I think the earliest is that I have an older sister who played piano.
Oh, cool.
And I would just sit and listen to her play piano and like sing along and annoy her, because like when she would mess up, I'd keep going, like because
Nice.
I knew the song she was practicing.
Yeah. What were you singing? Like, what was the first song you remember singing?
Oh well, that is more of a memory I've been told than that I
For sure.
specifically remember.
So super young.
Yeah, that was
Do you remember the first record that you ever bought?
The first record that I remember like specifically going to the store and being like, I gotta get this, was Black Sheep, a Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. I think I
remember.
Yeah.
I remember the day I bought that record, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good day.
See, I remember it because I was, you know, I was at the record store with my dad, and like, you know, I had to try to like slide it. I was like really nervous about whether he was gonna buy it for me.
Is that right?
About whether he was gonna let me buy it.
Yeah.
Because you know, it had like the parental advisory
lyrics,
sticker in.
Yeah.
And my sister ended up actually confiscating it from me, because she was like not down with the message.
Oh, not because she wanted it.
No, she was like
no, you can't have this.
You're too young for this record. Like, you shouldn't be listening to this misogyny.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's crazy you say that record, because I remember the day, like I got that home. I was like so excited to crack that thing open, and I think I just locked myself in the room and spent the whole day with that record.
It's a pretty incredible record.
For sure. Yeah. And so other than singing with your sister, like, obviously you're into music, but did you start?
I mean, I started playing piano, like, you know, like a few years later, like when I was like 10, 11, something like that. Just And, at first I was just kind of like, I think the way, like, a lot of parents are just like, try this and see if you like it. And
Yeah.
I was kind of into it, and then I went and I saw the music teacher in my school had like a concert, like a jazz trio concert that like that me and my mother went to, and I was like, oh, like that's really cool. Like I want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me like a little more interested in the piano, really. Like before that, I was just doing it as something to do, and it was all right. But that was when I was like, oh no, this is like I want to be able to do that.
Right.
So.
And what was your first performance like on stage in front of non-family?
Oh, well, my first performance actually predates that. I was in a talent show performance with a couple of my friends. We had a rap group.
Okay. What's the group called?
CYA.
Okay.
We did a song called "The Funky Place."
Okay. Are we gonna find that on YouTube?
I would actually be really curious to see that.
All right.
But as far as I know, it doesn't exist anymore.
We have a forensic research team. Let's see if they can find it.
It was a school talent show, and it's camcorders were around, so I'm sure somebody's got it somewhere.
Could be. That's funny.
We did we did.
And you were rapping?
What? I was rapping. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How'd it go?
It went pretty good. One of my friends forgot his verse, and like his flow was like pretty whack too.
Yeah.
So
I always imagine if I got up on stage, I would just forget the like it. I mean, this seems like such a small thing in the scheme of things, but like, when people get up on stage and can remember, 10 songs worth of material without like, a missing a beat, like that always kind of amazes me.
I think it's just like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just like being comfortable, feeling like you know what you're doing. I think.
Sure.
People ask me about that, and I don't really get nervous. The only time that I ever feel nervous is like sometimes like lyrics like do escape.
Yeah.
And then it's like the nerves is like, okay, I gotta, because then you're like multitasking, because you gotta kind of make something up to make it seem like you didn't mess up.
Yeah. While
you're also trying to like searching through the drawers to find the lyrics.
Yeah.
Usually, it works out, but those are, that's some nervous moments.
Yeah, I'm sure. So listening to the Rapture, I don't know that I would have guessed that anybody in that band was a rapper or like had a hip hop background.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think my hip hop credentials run all that deep, to be honest. But
no, but I just mean like I don't know. That wouldn't have been like an obvious guess.
Yeah, I mean that was like when I was in high school, I was I was just a musician, so I did a lot of things. Like I played in like punk bands. I played in the jazz band. I played in the orchestra. I played like as a bass player. I would just play with like singers, play with rappers at different things. I was still sort of entertaining, like I was still like writing a little bit of like I was still like writing rhymes a little bit, but like that kind of fell by the wayside. I realized at a certain point I was like, this isn't really where it's going for me.
Yeah.
Like so.
What was the music? You're in DC growing up, right?
Yeah.
So what was the music scene at the time?
It was when I was in high school in DC. I felt like it was sort of a weird time for the music scene. I think like, I mean, DC, you know, is like, you know, famous for punk music and Discord and all that, and then it's also it's famous for go-go.
Right.
And I mean, I wasn't involved in go-go. I mean, like,
Right. Yeah,
that,
of course.
you know, that was like,
It's a little before you.
you're around it, like it's on the radio a little bit, but
Yeah.
And you know, the punk scene at that time, it seemed like you know, there was like this older generation of bands that were kind of just like wrapping things up a little bit, like not really that active, not that involved, and so, you know, it was like a little bit of a lull, which is like, I guess, you know, it's cool because there's not a lot of competition, but it's also like, you know, it just seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of like bands to look up to at that time, or like get involved with or play with.
Sure.
You know?
So in that environment, like, so when was the first time that you felt like this is my career? Like I could make a career out of doing music.
I mean, I think that was always the plan.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know what the avenue was, but I mean, it was when I started playing bass, which I picked up like about a year and a half after I was playing piano. That was like, oh, this is like my instrument.
Did you ever think you might do something else for a living, or it was always music?
I mean, nothing at any point where I was like seriously thinking about what my career would be like. When I was a kid, I wanted to be like a baseball player. But like,
right, yeah, sure. Right.
But no, like, you know, when I moved to, you know, the plan was always move to New York to be a professional musician. You know, I didn't know what the capacity was going to be. You know, I was in school. I was in school for jazz.
In New York, you went
in New York, yeah. But I don't know that I necessarily really thought that like that was the path.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, I felt like, but you know, I was studying, I was learning, and there's a lot to learn from that, and there's a lot that I feel like from that kind of education, you know, informed and continues to inform, you know, what I do.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't know what the path was, but I knew that one way or another, you know, music was what I do.
How much was moving to New York like a game changer?
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. I always knew I was going to move to New York, like from when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
Like, I went to New York when I was like 12 or 13, and I was just like, yeah, this is the city. You know, I mean, I think that a lot of, you know, New York is where a lot of things happen. I mean, it's the big city, you know.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C., like, you know, I think Washington feels like it's a bigger city than it is, but it's, you know, it's very insular.
Sure.
And it's cool that way because you can be, you know, I think you can have, you know, has like a real, like there are scenes of music here, but, you know, like, I mean, New York is where I met. New York is where I joined the band, and that's kind of what, you know, that's what has propelled me through the rest of my professional career.
Yeah. And so how long were you in the band before things kind of blew up?
Let's see. I mean, I joined in sort of the very beginning, very end of '99, beginning of 2000. House of Jealous Lovers came out in the spring of 2002.
Okay.
So, like, what is that? Like a couple years? Yeah. And, I mean, but even before that, I mean, we were like, we were touring and doing all that. I mean, like, to me, like, that felt like we were doing great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have, so I'm always curious, like, if you have these, when you're in it, like, do you notice when things change? Right. So going from, unsigned to signed, or going from, like, House of Jealous Lovers obviously was a huge hit. I think it's easy to look back and say, okay, that was an important moment, right? But do you notice that at the time?
I think that I can't speak for anyone else. I think for me, I definitely felt like that was going to be a big record, and I don't know if that was because I think it was partially just a feeling like it was like it was well done.
Yeah.
Probably partially, James and Tim from DFA, kind of just, filling their head up with dreams.
Right.
I mean, I don't think any of us really thought it was going to do what it did. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think I certainly didn't know what to expect. Like, it opened a lot of doors that I didn't know existed.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so what's the feeling like when that's happening?
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, I guess you don't. It's not. I don't know. It's not as crazy in the moment, I think, as it looks in hindsight. Like, in the moment, like, you're just meeting a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, like, just kind of take things in as they come.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's, it was a big song, but, like, it's not like, it's not like Justin Bieber big or something like that. It's not.
Sure. But
like
for what
that.
you guys were doing,
for what we were doing, I mean, it was definitely a big change.
Absolutely. How big was that record?
In what sense? Just any sense?
Yeah.
Just like, whatever that means to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it. Like I said, like, it just opened up. It opened up worlds of music and people and opportunity that I didn't even really know existed. Like, it took us to Europe. I mean, which I knew existed. But like,
hey, where'd this come from? It's funny, like, you say that. Like, I think the music business is unique in some ways that, like, the pace is very. It's very different at different stages, right? And I think, you're like, when you have a hit, kind of any size, right? But when you have a hit record, like, all of a sudden everything moves really fast.
Yeah. And
you're busy all day, every day.
Yes.
Interviews, meetings, rehearsal, like, whatever those things are. Like, all of a sudden, just everything just speeds up. And then, at a later point, like, things slow down again.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of a unique challenge for people in the music business. Most businesses are like, they're pretty steady. You might have a product launch that things get a little bit busier, but it's not to these peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, like, one, you have to understand that is the nature of it.
Yeah.
And that you have to understand that the valleys are there, like, and be prepared for them. Both like, I mean, like financially and things like that, but like mentally, I think is the most difficult one. I think a lot of people quit or start like floundering around, like, oh well, maybe I should try this, and lose track of what their interests are. Or lose sight of what their path is, I guess, is really more what I mean to say.
Yeah, sure. But I think it's easy to feel like whatever happened today is likely to happen again tomorrow, kind of thing. Yeah. Right? And so, like, if things are going well, you expect them to keep going well. Yeah. And if things are going poorly, you kind of expect they're only going to get worse.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you see that throughout, you see that in all walks of life. I mean, like, even, like, think back to, like, before, like, the bubble burst and people were like, oh, houses are just going to keep on rising in value forever. Yeah. There's probably never, we're probably never experiencing it. Like, there were people on the news literally saying that, like, their recessions are a thing of the old economy. Right. Like, it's all bull.
How'd that work out?
Exactly. Like, so I think, like, something that kind of taught me about that was, did you ever see like that Joan Rivers documentary that came out a few years back?
No. I don't even know if I remember that.
It was a documentary just about her like career and like not like an overall, like, this is like, it was focused in on this period in her career where she wasn't actually doing all that great. She was I mean, she was fine, but she was playing like sort of like third tier casino gigs. She wasn't doing didn't have a whole lot of stuff going on, and and just listening to her talk about how she's like, I've been through this before. Like, she had the whole like show on Fox that got canceled. Her husband died. She was broke. And she's like, your career just goes up and down, and you just have to stay focused on what you're doing. And like, lo and behold, like towards the end of the documentary, she gets, she was on like The Apprentice or something like that. And and it was like, oh, okay, things are about to get flush again. Like, I'm about to start playing like first tier casinos. And, whatever.
So did you know that when you at the time, like, when things are starting to blow up for you, like, are you in a sense of like, okay, here we go, and that's not gonna last forever? Or no.
I mean,
of course not.
No. Like, I think you learn that you have to learn. I think you have to learn it for yourself once. Yeah. And like, like, thankfully, like, I had like enough like cool-headed people around to at least make sure that I was like, financially, like, not being like foolish.
Yeah. Was there any foolishness? Like, what? Any like crazy purchases?
Nah. You know what? That's the thing. It's always like, it's a You see it. You look back and you see like a sea of dinners. Yeah. That's what I see. Like, a sea of like, let me get this. Right. I got you. But like,
that shit adds up.
Yeah, it does add up. But it isn't. But like, I for the most part was actually pretty, relatively decent about hanging on to what I had, and it's served me
for sure.
It served me well in like this next phase of my career.
So I'm always fascinated with partnerships and just how anybody can manage to get along with someone else. I think in any area of life, I think is pretty amazing. But so I'm curious, how did you know that it was time to leave the Rapture?
It was a couple things. Like, one, I wasn't happy doing it, but I hadn't been happy doing it for
Yeah.
a little while.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself wouldn't have necessarily been enough to
Mm-hmm.
make it happen. I didn't think the music there were two things about them. It was the music, really. It was, one, I didn't think that the music that we were making was really gelling.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't think I didn't think the product was coming out in a
Okay.
way that I was all that interested in
Yeah.
being involved with. And I also felt like I was, I like had this material that I was starting to write, that I was like, I don't think that this band is the place for this material.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't think that musically it was just a different vibe, and I didn't think the songs would sit well in
Sure.
that context. So
Yeah.
I think in hindsight, you always think you took too long to make a decision.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
and I definitely spent a little bit of time, I think I spent more time in it because it was something that I've been doing for at 9-10 years at that point. And I was like,
Yeah.
and at points it had been good.
Mm-hmm.
It had been a good creative situation. And,
Sure.
So, I sort of went through this going through the motions period where I was like, well, let me just play this out and see if maybe it gets better. But I should, in hindsight, I should have been gone by that point because
Right.
my head was not there.
Yeah.
But, that's easier to see
Of course.
after the fact than during it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's an ongoing challenge in life, right? Is
Knowing when to move on.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the best and worst thing now about being a solo artist?
It's the same thing. Being able to make decisions creatively and not have to justify or explain or fight for them.
Mm-hmm.
And accordingly being able to collaborate with people who are involved but not invested.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I made my record was, I had the songs. I sort of had how I knew how they wanted to go, and
You're
then
talking about the EP.
the EP that I just released, yeah. And I was just like, this is how it goes. Maybe they would interpret what I was putting out there, but maybe they'd change some here or there.
Mm-hmm.
If it was better, I was like, that's great. If it wasn't, I was like, could you do this? And
Right.
when they're involved, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not they don't feel like it's their personal expression.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like an argument or a discussion about, well, but I really want it to go this way, and I really feel like I need to get my. They're just like, okay, yeah, sure, and
Right.
we just move on.
Right.
And I felt like a lot of it's cool not having to have that kind of argument and energy around making music.
Sure. So what's the
but-
downside of that?
The downside is that there's nobody to lean on
Right.
when creative decisions need to get made.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's sometimes you just don't know what to do. So,
Mhm.
but creatively with that, you deal with it by you just find people that you trust,
Mhm.
and you can get their perspective, and may not agree with it, but again, then I feel like it's still a positive thing because once again you're getting like somebody's and you're getting somebody's help, but you don't have to do what they tell you to do.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's definitely like it's definitely it's wearing to like feel, you know, there's times where you're like, oh, I'm carrying this load on my own.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, one of the things I've found so interesting, so like I said, you know, you sent me this music and it was definitely not what I was expecting from like the dude from the Rapture. And it's great. I love it. You know, I know we talked over email, like, you know, it's music that really speaks to me, but I still find it fascinating that the standard kind of approach is like, you know, for most musicians, it's about like the scene and the style first, right? And so what I mean is like, usually if you're a punk rocker, you're a punk rocker, and you have the clothes and the you know, fuck the system attitude, and like all of this kind of comes together, and then you make this sort of music as an output of that worldview, right? And if you're a jazz artist, you have a very different, you know, I was talking to somebody about that the other day, that like, you know, if we're both football fans and we like different teams, we still probably have a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you're a punk rock guy and I'm a, you know, R&B guy, like we don't even see the world the same way. And in fact, we might, I'm generalizing.
Yeah,
right?
I understand.
But we might even dislike a lot about what each other kind of believes in. And I think there's obviously some common ground to be had. But you know, certainly if you're a country fan and I'm like a, you know, hardcore fan, right? Like we just think of the world as like, you know, we just don't even want to talk to each other for the most part.
Yeah, there's a lot less common ground.
Absolutely.
And it would be like being a fan. It would be like talking with a baseball fan when you're a fan of football.
Exactly. Like we don't even speak the same language.
You don't know who the big players are in either sport. You can't connect.
Yeah. Yeah, and the stuff that's meaningful is not the same, right? And so, you know, so the fact that you know, are obviously so comfortable in these different genres, I think is just really interesting. And so I'm curious, you know, how you see that and how it doesn't sound like it was a decision to like, I'm going to make a soul, or I don't even know how you necessarily describe the music, but
I've settled on that. It's the easiest way.
Okay.
A soul record.
Right. I mean, and so, but it doesn't sound like you were like, oh, I want to go make a soul record.
No, I mean, like, I think it's a couple things. Like, one, like, I never felt completely comfortable in that world where you know, where sort of the world where the Rapture got placed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of ways. It wasn't like a lot of the bands that people thought of as being our peers. Like I wasn't really that into.
Sure. That could be a problem.
Either musically or like even just like personally. Like
Right.
it wasn't like the kind of people that I got along with.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like on some levels, like I was always trying to bring that element of soul and funk and hip hop into the Rapture. You know, I mean, I think like and that wasn't the only thing,
Mm-hmm.
but that was definitely like just music that I cared about and music that, you know, I think we all sort of brought disparate interests into it, and the common ground was what the band was. But
Mm-hmm.
like in my head, like I thought, you know, I was like, you know, let's be like a really great, like kind of like disco band.
Mm-hmm.
On some level.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess like but like even that, like it's not like I don't think there was any explicit decision to like you said, there wasn't any explicit decision to start doing soul music.
Right.
It was just the music's just started coming out different.
Yeah.
Like the songs started coming out different. I spent when we got off of our tour from the Piece of the People We Love album, I was just tired and I was sick of the band, and like we'd just been out on the road for a long time, and I was just like, I'm just gonna listen to. Oh, and the other thing, we had a couple other experiences of just in that time period that just made me kind of change the way that I saw the band a little bit. Like, we went on tour with Daft Punk, and we did a song with Timbaland for the Grand Theft Auto 4 soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which was a song that we had tried to do for the second album, for that album, but that hadn't worked with the producers that we were working with at that time. But I don't know, like both of those experiences kind of made me be like, there's like these other ways of making music that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And I was just like, not, when I got off the tour, I was like, I don't want to listen to like, dance music, indie dance, whatever. Like, right. I'm not about this right now.
Yeah.
So I was just like listening to a lot of Jay-Z and a lot of Stevie Wonder. Those are, two of my favorite artists.
What's your favorite Stevie record?
Like song or album?
So
it changes all the time.
Yeah.
I think at that time period it was Summer Soft.
Cool.
But I was specifically listening to The Blueprint and Songs in the Key of Life. Just kind of going back and forth between the two, really.
Interesting.
And I think that, that probably had an impact on the songwriting.
Yeah.
Because it just helped me. It just connected me to. It just reconnected me to the music in a different kind of way, and made me want to start pushing. I felt one thing, like, and this is like a little bit technical, but one thing about like the Rapture, I always felt like, and about the process of writing, like in a room collectively, is I felt like harmonically, in terms of harmonic structure, we never really pushed things very much because, and I think that's part of the nature. If you write a lot of music by kind of jamming with people in a room, you don't write a whole lot of changes.
Sure.
And like Stevie's music is harmonically very rich and complex, and I was like,
it's a different process, right?
Yeah,
for composing.
And that's like like because of my other music background, I was like, that's something that I kind of miss about making music, just having these other kinds of harmonic movements. So I think that's why I started listening. That's why I started listening to it, and then that just got into my writing.
So if you were advising somebody else on their career, is switching genres like that, is that a good? Why is it a good business decision?
It's a good business decision if it's what you want to do. I don't think that, I was looking at So we had after working with Timberland, our contract with we were signed to Mercury out of the UK, and that our option came up, and they declined it because we had signed like a pre music business recession contract. So
sure. Much richer. I'm sure.
Yeah. Like the option was like something ridiculous, like compared to like what anybody actually sold.
Yeah.
But we had a chance to sign to Tim's label, and to me, I thought I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. Like I found working with him to be really creatively interesting,
sure,
and like challenging, and it felt like a progression. And the other guys just weren't into it. There's a little bit of business stuff in there, like just straight contract shit, but I think the crux of it was that they just felt like it wasn't a risk that they wanted. It wasn't a risk creatively that they wanted to take.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't. I think that they just sort of felt like wanted to stay kind of more in a different kind of world.
Sure.
And to me, like, I was just like, well, I know that I don't want to carry on, like, just, like, I think, like, one of the things that was brought up was this idea of, like, just sort of, like, becoming sort of, like, one of the sort of, like, elder statesmen kind of, like, indie bands, like, I don't know, like Sonic Youth or some shit like that. And, like, I was just like, that's just not creatively all that interesting to me. That's not, I feel like I'm still young enough that I don't want to just keep on doing the same shit for the rest of my life.
Well, that has to be one of the challenges for musicians, right? Is that, invariably, if things go well, you're going to get known for one thing. Hopefully it's more than one song. Yeah. But in a lot of cases, it's one song, or it's 3 songs, or it's, in best case, it's 4 albums.
Yeah.
Right? And then for the rest of your life, that's what people want. Right? They want to hear those over and over again, and
Absolutely. I mean, I think, like, even, like, with our second album, there were people who were like, this isn't the first album,
Exactly.
Like.
Yeah, and I think that's a real challenge because, my favorite albums I've heard, a few dozen times probably, maybe a little more in rare exception. But, the guy that wrote it has heard it several thousand times and, maybe more. Yeah. And it's like you just got to be sick of it. And you got to be sick of talking about it and thinking about it. And or not necessarily sick of it, but it's like you also, I think, you'd have to feel that like, oh, I got more. You know what I mean? I have other interests and other things. Even if I still love this over here, right? Like, I don't want to only be about that.
Nobody, I mean, that's the... I feel like that's also it's a real classic musician. Like, as soon as anybody tries to pin you down as being one thing, you're like, no, I'm not that.
I'm more than that.
I'm this. Like, people are always, and some of that's like maybe a little bit of denial, but some of that's also, I think, like, creatively, it's how you keep on, it's how you keep on growing.
Exactly.
That's.
So, looking forward, like, how much do you think, like, okay, I'm a soul artist now versus, like, this is the project I made, and who knows, the next in 5 years, you're gonna be a classical artist or whatever.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
I would be pretty surprised because I don't listen to a whole lot of that, but
sure.
I think that I think to some extent, like, all those kinds of labels, put things in categories because it's easier as a listener to understand and relate them to each other. But I think for most artists, they're not thinking like unless they're at a cynical phase in their career where they are like literally like I'm going to make a soul record, or I'm going to make a Broadway record, or whatever. They're just trying to, they're just making what they make. So like, I think that for me, this set of music feels very connected to who I am, and feels very connected to my past and my past experiences and my past musical experiences. So
what's the response been from people not like me, like from Rapture fans specifically? Like, do you start over completely, or how much of that follows you, or like do you even think about that?
I think initially there was part of me that was like, I don't care what they think. Like, but like that's all like head shit. That's like that's me more than it has to do with anybody else. Some followed along. I mean, like, the way that a friend of mine put it this way, like, think about how much that you've changed since 2003 or whatever. Like, they've all changed too in their own lives. So your audience changes and grow, and a lot of it I think grew. Some of it grew with me. And grew to a place where they appreciate the music. Some of them didn't, and that's it's gravy either way.
Any surprises with that?
I don't know what you mean, so probably not.
Okay. No, just I like, again, like people resonating in a way that you didn't expect them to, or kind of rejecting it in a way that maybe you didn't expect them to.
I don't hear too much from people who reject it. I mean, I'm sure they're out there.
Right.
I mean,
they're just probably not.
But they, they don't bother. They don't. Thankfully, they don't. I mean, I don't have too much on YouTube yet, so I'm sure that's when. That's where those people will find their voice to let me know that they don't like what I'm doing. But
the new video is coming out.
New video is coming out so that'll be the chance for people, for all those people to. But honestly, like, if I'm being my best self, I won't read any of that stuff because it serves me no purpose.
Are you good at staying away from that stuff?
I'm pretty good about it. Yeah. There's moments, I guess, but
do you how do you use or think of social media?
It's an ongoing evolution. I think that
let me ask you this way: what's the best part, or what do you enjoy most?
What I enjoy most is honestly just straight up interactions with like not random people, fans that and like there's like people that I follow on like Twitter now who I've never met, who they came to me initially because they liked what I was doing, either from Rapture stuff or this current stuff, or both. And like now, like I know what like Lorenzo in Texas is like doing, like day to day, and like that's weird but cool.
Nice. That's cool. Okay, I have kind of a lightning round.
Okay.
That let's see how we do here. I have a couple more before we get to that, but who have been important mentors? Like, have you learned all this stuff kind of on your own, or has there been folks that have helped you along the way?
I mean, a lot of it has been learning it on my own. You know, I think that, you know, I've signing to Paul Epworth's label, I learned a lot good. I learned, I mean, creatively, I think I learned a lot. I think that the whole thing could have gone better, and I think that he would say the same thing. You know, he did give me some like important mentorship. I think like when I first got out of the band, I was flailing around a little bit, in terms of feeling like I wanted to try a lot of different types of music in a lot of different situations, and he helped focus me in a little bit on what he was just like, look, I feel like this stuff sounds like you're just doing some like shit that you think is cool, and this stuff sounds like more like what you really care about and you should just focus on that and stop worrying about the shit that you're just doing because you think somebody is gonna think you're cool for doing it.
Right. Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely a big relationship. And besides that, you know, I've different collaborators, different, you know, like some like managers that I don't work with, but are, you know, people that are will lend a bit of perspective. You know, it's cool. The you know, the music helps open a lot of doors when I need it.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
So what's the goal? Where you know, where are you trying to take this project, but, you know, more broadly?
I mean,
what are you trying to do?
For me, like, I want to be able to tour sustainably. I want to be able to. Yeah, I mean, I really love performing live, and getting for me, like the next step would just be getting enough exposure on the music so that I can tour around the US, tour around Europe, go to Japan, go to Australia. I mean, that's what I love to do. I love being on stage. I love the moment to moment creativity of live performance.
Nice.
So just trying to get the music out there more so that that can happen. I do want to get back into the studio, and I would, you know, I don't have a label at the moment. And
is that are you trying to keep it that way? Like, is the intention to just be independent, or are you?
No, the intention's not to just be independent. I mean, like, I you know, I don't know that it necessarily has to. I don't know that it necessarily has to be a label. It can, you know, if it whatever, but I'm old-fashioned in the sense that, like, I would still like to hear music on the radio.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to go into the studio and not be counting every penny.
Of course.
Or when we're on a break, like, and people are like,
right,
like chit-chatting or something, be like, oh, all right, guys,
that was
it's coming out of my pocket.
That was $60.
Yeah, so like,
hurry up. For sure.
So no, I mean, I would, you know, and like whether that's a label or like, so, you know, I don't even know what the options are now. There's a lot of things, but someone to invest and help. Just help get the music out to a larger audience.
Okay. All right, my lightning round. So tell me one thing you know for sure.
My hands are in front of me right now.
Okay. We're trusting that sense of sight. Some philosophers would argue you don't know that, but
Ooh,
they might be wrong.
I mean,
What's
This is-
what's something you used to believe and then you decided that you had been wrong?
Something I used to believe and decided that I was wrong. I don't know, what's something that you used to believe that you decided you were wrong about?
That a low-fat, high pasta diet was a healthy thing to be eating.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know. Like I have this. I asked this question because, I have this theory that like everything we knew before the internet was wrong.
Yeah, maybe that like. I'm in my head. I'm always like, but maybe deep in my heart, I knew it was wrong.
Okay.
Because I was gonna say like, maybe some about like some about skinny jeans.
That would be
being a good look.
a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be totally fair.
But I think on some level I always knew that.
That's so funny. What is there a talent that you always wish you had more of?
Yeah. Just the ability to just like walk into a room and like just introduce yourself to, just kind of like
That's a good one.
work the room.
Yeah. Who would most excite you if you learned they were a fan of your work?
First thing that popped into my head was Stevie Wonder, so that'd be pretty incredible.
That'd be awesome. If you could choose another career and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you do?
Do I have to stop doing what I'm doing?
Oh, that's a good question. No one's giving me. No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's just like a side. I have a sideline.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
All right, I have a sideline in venture capitalism. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Like, is that just because you know you'd make a lot of money, or is it like
strictly
you have interest?
Strictly because I know I'd make a lot of money.
Okay.
I have zero interest in that world. I mean,
So
I
if
guess
you had to give up music and do that,
if I had to give up music and do that, that wouldn't be happy. I mean, the closest thing that I have as an answer to like a career that like I can imagine doing besides music, which I can't, would be being a chef. Just because I certainly enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
But I've never worked in a kitchen.
Yeah.
From everything I understand, it's a pretty hellacious life.
Yeah.
It's not really something I'm trying to do. Like, I just like cooking.
Right.
Like, I could maybe like being like a personal chef or something like that.
Okay.
So that seems like a much less stressful
Yeah.
life than like trying to run a restaurant or something like that.
That's a good one because I'm like that. I like the outcome.
Yeah.
Feeding people and all that is great.
I get a lot of. I feel like I
don't think
get a
would
lot
love
of
the
like
process.
meditation done while I'm doing that.
Yeah, cooking for one or for
Yeah.
3 or something like that.
Yeah, but like cooking for like 100, that sounds terrible.
That sounds stressful. What do you cook?
I've been back on like plant-based diet for
Nice.
a few years now.
Yeah.
I had I was like that when I was a kid, and then I had a few wayward years of
Life on the road, man.
foie gras, and
Oh,
that
okay.
was the nice version.
Yeah,
it was the life on the road that did it to me. It was like
Yeah.
second tour with the band, and like being vegan at that time, and like with two
That's
dudes
hard.
who weren't vegan.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were, and like we were making like no money
Right.
at that time. So
Yeah.
they would always stop at like Burger King,
Sure. Yeah, you get a
McDonald's,
pizza,
and there's
everyone's gonna
there's
split.
like literally nothing on the McDonald's menu that is at that time that was vegan. I don't know anymore. So
You could get a bun, which is probably not vegan because it's probably butter in it.
yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like I was sitting there like
Side of
I was
lettuce.
sitting there like picking like cheese out of
Right.
like a terrible salad, and I was just like, "Fuck this!" Like,
That sucks. What's the last great book you read?
Arrow of God by
Okay.
Chinua Achebe.
Okay.
I always wonder. I've been saying that, and I was like, "Am I saying his name
Oh,
right?"
I don't know, but I'm gonna look it up though. What do you collect?
I collect records, but I don't indulge it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
When I moved to, I can very much so, but that was really when I realized now it like literally is just a collection, because like when I moved to LA, like I bought like a bunch of records, and then I was like, it's like I don't even listen to these.
Right.
I'm just buying this because
Yeah.
I'm in the store and I'm like, oh, I love this album.
For
like
sure.
But I'm not even listening to it. I'm listening to the album on
Yeah.
Spotify.
Yeah.
so,
No, I'm the same
like,
way.
so I was like, let's put an end to this. I have a record collection,
Yeah.
but I don't add to it anymore.
Well, I've done this recently, and I suggest like spend the afternoon in front of the turntables, like just playing shit, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
And I do that. I have a young son that I'm trying to teach, to play vinyl and stuff. And so we'll do that once in a while. And, but yeah, it's way inconvenient, and it's not, you could just pop on the Sonos and have any song you like and whatever. But no, it's a nice.
Yeah, there's only one record. I only own, I probably own more than one record that isn't available stream, but
Sure.
there's only one that I'm aware of that I have to. But even that's I can listen to it on YouTube.
Right.
So,
Exactly. What movie do you think you've seen the most?
Probably Coming to America or Major League, just because when I was a kid, like I watched those movies on repeat.
Coming to America is my shit, man.
Coming to
I love
America
that
is a pretty amazing movie.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Major League in like 20 years, so
Me neither. I was
don't
thinking of
know.
watching it with my son, but
I
I
don't
think
know
he's.
how old
I don't think he's gonna get it yet.
How old is he?
He's 7.
I was probably like 8
Okay.
or so. I definitely wasn't. That was like I wasn't allowed to watch
Right.
that movie,
For sure.
but my cousins were. So
Right. Yeah.
I watched it
You sneak in.
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. We're not too strict on the movies. Like, I'm more interested in having a well-rounded, cultural education for him.
Yeah.
That's not just all little kid movies, but also like teaching him the difference that like stuff on screen and in real life is two different things, and
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was exposed to a lot of like, not just like little kid shit, and turned out fine.
It seems like it's gone the other way. Like parents are just watching kids movies because they can watch them with their kids.
Yeah.
And so like those are all the biggest movies,
But like, I mean, like
I don't want to do that.
my dad was definitely, especially like my dad, like when my mom went out of town, like, like he wouldn't like get like some kids movie to watch. He'd just get like,
Right. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
got like, get like My Life as a Dog or something like that. And I'd
Yeah.
just be like, all right, I guess I don't really understand what's going on in this movie, but this is what we're watching.
Totally. Yeah,
know.
totally. I was a little older, but I watched Cheech and Chong for the first time with my dad. And I remember I was like 13, but I remember feeling like, should I be watching this with my dad? And then I look over and he had fallen off the couch laughing so hard. He literally fell on the floor laughing.
That's pretty good.
It was great. That was
See, like I also feel like when you're a lot of shit, like if you're just too young for it, like you don't even
Yeah, it just goes over
register.
your head.
Like
Yeah.
Cypress Hill's like first album, like I listened to that on tape like constantly, but I didn't realize that they were talking about weed.
Is that
like,
right?
When I was like too young for that first album.
That's cool.
And then the next album,
yeah.
I was like, man, what happened? Like all they do is talk about weed.
Well, they also got more overt. Like,
Yeah. That's
I mean,
true. Like it became more of the subject
Yeah,
matter, but
yeah.
I went back and listened to the first one and was like, oh no, they were always talking about that
Yeah,
shit. I was just like, I
For
was
sure.
just too naive to
Right.
understand what was going on.
Yeah.
So
That's hilarious. All right, last one before they're gonna throw us out of here. Favorite DJ?
DJ Lindsay in New York.
Okay.
Who's, not a very well known DJ, but
Yeah.
she always plays amazing shit. She has a show on the Lot Radio.
Oh, cool.
I think it's on Wednesdays,
Uh-huh.
but I could be wrong about that. It's called Look Both Ways.
Nice. I'm gonna
but
check her out. I'm always looking for new DJs.
Yeah, no, she's incredible.
That's dope.
So
Dope. Well, dude, thanks for doing this, man. This was great. Great stories. I appreciate you being here.
yeah, thank you for having me.
How do folks find you online?
I am Mattie Safer at everywhere. I have my website, mattiesafer.com. That's Mattie with an IE, MATTIESAFER. And then on all social platforms, I am the only Mattie Safer that I know of. So
Nice. And you get the EP on SoundCloud,
you can get the EP on
Spotify.
Spotify.
Everywhere.
You can get it on Apple Music. You can
Okay.
buy it on iTunes. You can buy it on Amazon. Think about buying. Listen to it on Spotify, and if you enjoy it, think about buying it because
That's
it
right.
does actually make a difference.
Support.
The artists do needs money to live on, and believe me, I use streaming and all of that.
Yeah.
And I don't buy everything, but if it's something that I love, I try to support it.
Yeah. Plus, it's like, well said. And the new video is what? It'll be out, I think, by the time we air. So
Yeah, new video is for the single Whenever You're Ready. I've just filmed it the other day with another artist that I think you should talk to by the name of Holt.
okay.
Who is from Chicago but lives here now. And he's a talented musician in his own right, signed to good music.
Oh, cool.
But also makes great videos and
Yeah.
just a really, really awesome dude. I'm really excited about the video.
Nice. Can't wait to see it. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yo, Mattie Safer, y'all. I hope you enjoyed that. Go check out this dude's record. It is a beautiful record. You can hear it on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere else. And you can find Rebel Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere else, except not most places, but you can find us some places. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our wonderful episodes. iTunes, look for Rebel Radio. Make sure you click the one with the orange logo with the mic, not the other one. There's multiple Rebel Radios up there. Don't get it twisted. Hey, most importantly, come back next week for more Rebel Radio.